I'm trying to.
You've done some
Well,
different things to it.
I've got my cards here. Where'd my bag go?
And you had
So I
that-
have little game cards, and so the idea is that you have to collect them. This is my little spinner wheel. I'm trying to have it. So, where do you start? The writing process is always, one, it's all recursive, so you don't have to start at pre-writing, you don't have to start at drafting. You can start the writing process in publishing. So I tried to, all my little drawings around here, but I tried to show how they're different and then interconnected. They're all my little shapes all the way through. It ended up looking way busy, so I don't know. Next time, try to make it simpler. So you spin the little disc, and it's like, oh, drafting, right? So I got these cards here that would be on there like Monopoly. And then you would come over here and you'd pick up a drafting card, and then you would write about like what scares you the most. It tells you write for 15 minutes or whatever. So then you get this card and it's yours, and then you spin again. First, my spinning thing doesn't work too well. Oh, so pre-writing. So now you're going from drafting to pre-writing. So then you come over here and you have the pre-writing cards, and it might be like, okay, now you need to, read a chapter in a book or make a bubble map of a bubble chart, brainstorming chart of what your story is going to be, so that and you just keep doing this until you end up collecting all the cards, and then you've essentially, not that your assignment is done, but you've completed the writing process, and then you would kind of understand how each one of them ties into each other. And I don't know, I just kind of thought of it because the kids are always like, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to start. Well, you can start in revising, so if you landed on revising, there'd be like, go grab a journal page, piece out of your journal, and let's, revise it for spelling or content or whatever. Editing, for going to a writer's group or anything like that. So you just keep doing this little game until you've done all of these. And so I guess the idea would be like, a whole class, each kid like, oh, what am I going to do now? Because I can't make my own decisions. Oh.
So that's like where they go to when they're like, oh, I'm so
Yeah,
lost.
so then I guess, to expand on it, like there'd be these stations around the room probably,
Huh, right.
and maybe I'd just make a giant wheel. And the whole room
That's all
would
they
be,
do all hour.
the whole room would be a game board. So, and then I just put like, around here, like little questions around, like, oh, writer's block, or where do I start? Planning, writing, publishing, sharing, just kind of like the synonyms all the way around. So that's my game. And then, my reflection that went with it.
Any questions, comments,
Oh, yeah, any
suggestions
questions,
on that
comments?
one?
I'm just
I like
looking
it.
forward to when you have to grade it. You'll have to play it, obviously.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, I really did try
When
to
I
get
do-
everything in my room to be
Right.
participatory.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as long as you engaged in it, you would get credit
Well, everybody
for that.
wins. I
Yeah,
mean, it's a win-win.
But if you're like,
for everybody.
I'm just gonna skip that. So I guess each one's 20%. I don't know.
Oh, so you have to,
I
put
mean,
a
I don't
grade.
know.
I don't want
know.
to play now. Okay.
That one was really tough.
Not playing
for me,
for
though,
points.
I mean, I went through a lot of like tessellations in my head of like different types of things to do for the creative project.
It's a lot of cards too. I mean, that's a lot of work, just like prompts. It's cool.
It is, but I just write one every once in a while. Like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. So I write that.
I like it.
And then for my scholarly, so this is my comp book. See, like the black binding, and then okay. So and then my name, and then the class, and then what is writing. So this is it. So in here, and I just put my like research and rationale on the back of every page. So basically it is, these are things that come up in the journal all the time that I don't think most people would say like, oh, that they fail because that's not writing. And I just want to say, well, it is. Like, I don't want them doing this all year long, but at certain points, like, you need to just suck it up and be like, okay, you did it. I'm going to count this as writing. But through conversations, then you would be like, okay, now you know, what did you think about as you were doing this, and kind of use these things for their own prompts. Okay. So we have the scribbling, which I see a lot, where they just, oh, we're gonna draw a picture today, and they're like, oh, whatever, and they do all this, but I'm like, you're learning. Okay, and so I found an article about that, and then so this is why we should take this scribbling as writing. So Graham,
Is it drafting, pre-writing, revision, or?
it's more like pre-writing, you know. So, but Graham Badley in a psychology paper used the metaphor. It was more like the teasing of wool, you know. So yeah, we're doing this, but you're emptying your head, like you're not really focused on whatever assignment is. So in effect, you're able to concentrate a little better because you're just doing this. And that's a decision that you made too. So a lot of my stuff comes back, you gotta have conversations. Why did you do this? Like, did you just do it because like you don't like me and you don't want to write, or no, I just couldn't. So the research is back here. And then the drawings that we always deal with. So a lot of kids, instead of writing, they're gonna draw. So again, you don't want them to probably draw every day. At some point we want to have you know, focused writing in words and sentences. But I just related this back to emergent writers, like pre-kindergarten and kindergarten. Like they draw and we're like, oh yay, look at you write. But when we get to secondary classes, we're like, that's not, you know, you need to write. And so I just kind of used the analogy of like cavemen. Like drawing is the precursor to writing.
It is writing.
Yeah, well, but to the words, the precursor to formulated words. But then even at their, you know, at their fundamental level, words are just a type of drawing anyways. Like they're just images that we've put, you know, that old currency thing. It's not real. It's just a value on it, right? So that's what, and so I used some Carnagan from the Writing Project and Ruth Cullum stuff because they dealt with younger age. And so then I have repetition, so that they just repeat the same line over and over again. They don't want to. This is me, right? This isn't right.
I'm saying looks like a free write.
Well, I mean, you give them a prompt, you give them something to do, but then it's like, I don't know what to write. 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 I don't know what to write.
I never had a student like that.
But
He's that student.
But they do this, and one part is because, especially in the early institution of the journal, you're like, you have to write for the whole 5 minutes. You can't stop. You know,
You have a minute left.
You can't ever quit. And so they do this to kind of complete that assignment. Okay, so and I'm just, my whole deal was that they're trying to sort through their thoughts and they don't have them, but they're at least getting the muscle practice. And then what I academically call the loop-de-loos, which is the same thing, that they're just trying to
The
complete.
variation of it.
Yeah, they're just trying to kind of please you as they do it. But you get through all that, and we counted all that as writing, and you get to, we're finally at writing, and then, you know, how we eventually got there. And then I kind of used the safe space, you know, lens. Like these journals aren't like essays. They need a place to take their risks and try something new, and then you look at it and you're like, hey, that's great, you know, why don't you write me a story about that thing next time? And once they kind of like, oh, that's cool, I can do that, it usually kills the problem anyways. They're like, oh, well, that was no fun. I didn't get a rise out of it. You didn't get mad. And so they move on and they kind of go through this progression of doing these different things until eventually like they just give up and they like start writing. But now they're identified, like marks on paper are important. Like no matter what marks they are, I'm going to get a grade for them. And once they know that, like eventually they'll start writing because we haven't, I don't know, devalued every little thing that they've done.
You didn't have the courage to interject, though.
No. I feel
So
like
that's
cutting you off.
Like halfway. Okay, so
That's really nifty.
and what's the numbers at the end?
Nice.
140.
140.
It's the classroom number. that's gonna be
This will make sense once
Lady
you see the
Justice,
thing.
huh?
That makes sense right now.
Yeah, that's what all this stuff is.
I don't know how that'll fit in there.
I just looked at all of them, so.
Yeah, it's like I sort of
Uh,
stopped they're flipping.
Just push the button.
This thing says computer.
GC?
It's creepy.
Easy.
She's a Mac
We're just
user.
waiting for you to actually get out, that's what it was.
Just look at emails.
Panda, sit down.
Alright, so I assembled this on my living room floor yesterday. This is a painting of Lady Justice. And in between the gaps in the middle, I did text that's related to the Black Lives Matter movement. And I'll kind of zoom in and show you guys some of the more specific text. Over her chest, I did I Can't Breathe. Here, the badge says to protect and serve with an asterisk, and it says some exclusions apply. I'm pretty pissed, so I kind of let some emotions out on this. Next to her arm, it says hands up, don't shoot. Down here, I've got some statistics related to police violence and vigilante violence against African Americans. I've got names of various victims. I added Freddie Gray this week. Some cities that have the highest rates of police brutality. Some statistics I found on a federal website.
Tulsa is one?
Tulsa is one of the top ones. And Oklahoma has the highest rate of police brutality of any state.
Yep.
The highest incarceration of women in.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. And I believe our racial disparity in our prisons is one of the highest as well.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And then I have coming out of the bottom to kind of represent like falling through the cracks of the justice system. One of my favorite parts is I intentionally put some of the younger victims toward the bottom. So Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice was 12 years old. I thought that was something that would be good to be kind of striking there. Let's see here, some of the statistics I found just that I thought were relevant. Black people are killed by law enforcement at 3 times the rate of white people. I found this on a federal website and I checked the math, and the math is correct, and it's stunning. That's not the right word. Negative connotation of stunning. 1 black man is killed by police or vigilantes every 28 hours. And then, let me get the exact number. 1 in every 5 black victims of justifiable homicide is under 21 years of age. Because one of the things that pisses me off the most about the issues that have been going on is the fact that a lot of these men are so young. So I kind of use this as a way to be expressive, and I wanted to combine the various forms of text with this overall image and literally embed them. So yeah, that's my creative one.
So you talked about the names falling through the cracks. Is that why the paintings are separated and then all those things are in between too? So all of them are cracks in
Exactly.
That
Yeah.
Justice.
in Lady Justice. So, okay.
She's not a whole, complete picture. So that's my creative one.
Will you send this?
Huh? Yeah, I can email that to you guys.
Yeah.
The painting is great.
And that's one that I wouldn't
Painting.
need you to
Stunning.
give me those. I mean, that's a
Good
good
connotation.
photograph of it, and
Yeah.
I can definitely read that one. So.
My scholarly, I'm not done yet,
Display somewhere, honestly.
but I can show
Yeah,
you guys
but
what I've got.
NCTE next November. It will be an example I use. We have a conference session that was
For
approved for the
NCTE.
NCTE
Oh,
next
cool.
on multimodal composition. So your work, if it's okay with you, would be
Yeah,
an
go for it.
example. So.
I can try to get a slightly better picture if you would like. Okay, my scholarly isn't as put together, but it will be in a week. I've got all my research done and stuff, and the topic is picture books used in adolescent classrooms. And so I'm creating a picture book. And so this first one is, Adam the adolescent always thought that picture books were for children. This is very unpolished currently. His teacher, Mr. Terrell, disagreed. And here you have students and they're groaning because they see the Sneetches. And it says, Monday story time with Mr. Terrell. And so some of the kids are upset, some of the kids are excited. And then you see, Mr. Terrell knew just how great picture books were for adolescents like Adam. And he's got his comb over, of course, and his Mr. T tie. And then this part that I haven't started very much, I'm going through the different aspects that the research said, why it's beneficial, how you can use it in the classroom, that sort of thing. And so one of the reasons it's beneficial is that it's colorful, so it's engaging for the reader, that sort of thing. And then some of the other research was that I'll just quickly run through this really fast. It's reader friendly, it's short, which can be good for struggling readers. It's great for ELLs because it helps increase their vocabulary by reinforcing it with pictures. You can use instructional texts that are picture books. You can give them independent reading options that are appealing, which I really like because I love doing independent reading. And it's a good way to introduce them to abstract topics because it gives them that visual reinforcement. It's good for writing prompts, which I think we all use. It makes multicultural topics come alive, which I thought was a really interesting piece of research. And then how to choose texts, you need to make sure they're relevant to your instructional goals. You need to make sure they're interesting. You need to make sure they have complex themes and that the illustrations are not too childish. So each of my pages in the book is going to deal with one of those aspects. I'm going to get pretty creative with it, I think. So I'm just going to be drawing all weekend. So yeah, that's kind of where mine is.
Cute. And you just kind of go through it and it talks about why I made it. Some tips on how to use this in your classroom, in your school, and then my different recipes.
Oh, so even for different age.
Yep, I did them for kindergarten through second,
That's really cute.
and then, so there's recipe for, you give a mouse a cookie, and then you can, at the bottom it says for how your students can help you and what they can do. And chocolate mousse for dinner.
Nice.
And then I got this idea because my sister teaches 5th grade, and they read Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and she was like, she called us like, oh, what's Turkish Delight? She's like, we had to look it up for my class because no one knew what it was, and this was like it's really complicated. You have to have like a cookie or a candy thermometer and stuff, but this is like a microwave. I don't know how good it is because it's all like powdered sugar and water and gelatin. Yeah, so it looks
We're done.
interesting.
Come here alone and eat it.
But it's mostly sugar, but I thought it'd be fun, and it's kind of dangerous because it's really hot, which I say that on this side, but you could bring it and have them roll it in the sugar themselves or something, but I don't know how good it is because it has rose water, so it tastes like flowers. Yeah. So I don't think kids would necessarily like it, but it'd be fun to see this recipe. Like, oh, okay, that's what that is. And then Charlie Chocolate Factory. Jingle Giant. I'll spell balance wrong. I'll fix it.
That's really cool.
I mean, they'd love to come to your class. There's food in this book.
They're going to be close reading.
Yeah.
Where's the food?
Oh, it's just pictures. It's pictures of food.
Daisy's met and Julep. Oh.
Yeah, it's
Of course.
Yeah, it's like
It's incredibly fun.
What are the scarlet cake
They're just
balls?
like red velvet cake balls.
Ah, okay.
And I don't think any kids would eat ambrosia, but I just want to make it.
Is that what
I think they would
I
eat
did
Wine
that.
and ambrosia.
I didn't know that was
I don't know.
ambrosia.
Yeah, because we make that kind of salad a lot.
And then there's like a place for if you want to suggest something.
Good. I was going to ask if you leave this open for other people to contribute to.
Because I have more that I want to do, like, but I'm waiting for my grandma's meatball recipe for Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and I can't think of anything for Diary of Anne Frank, but I want to put something like that on there, but I can't think of any food.
I haven't read it for a while.
They
but
eat beans. That's what they have in the
Yeah.
annex.
Do they ever have a treat at all?
Yeah, meat brings a bee for victory cake.
There
Okay.
you go. Yeah. So,
And then under the tips, because I asked my mom, because I went to a really small high school where, or really small school. We did this in elementary, but I think people don't. They'd be like, well, you can't cook at school. But most schools that have cafeterias, I feel like if you ask them, they would let you use the cafeteria or a teacher's lounge or a home ec room or something. And then, as an idea, just to take whatever you made to your administration, be like, we made this in our class, and this is why. Here's some. And they're like, okay, great.
Especially in a small school, like this is over like.
Yeah, because we did this with, if you give a mouse a cookie, and I still have pictures of it, and it made the newspaper and stuff because it was really cute. But I kind of talk about why I did it, because it, instead of just using a few of your senses, it uses all 5. And then why it might not like build into your lesson, there's not like a moral that carries over. Like, this is the same as whenever they come over this obstacle. It's just fun, and it's a better way to, you can still do it while you're talking about the lesson, instead of just being like, there's a reason we're doing this. It's just like, oh, here's some treats.
but you might be able to do that. If, okay, you create a piece for Atticus during the trial scene. What would and maybe they wouldn't have to make the recipe, but they.
Yeah.
I think you could try to do that with a class.
Get all the kids drinking a soda out of a paper bag.
It would be kind of an assessment of theme or character, or what would Bob Ewell be eating? Pig slop.
How to use film in a classroom. All the stuff that says, do not leave movies to watch. Like, that's kind of like the thing as movies are for snowy days, for inside recess when it's raining, or after testing reward. But I think movies can be really beneficial. Like, there's even a whole major here about film.
Creative one first, because I'm a little disappointed in it. It is not presentation ready, so I'll send it out when I'm done. But it's called, I'm going to do something called an abandoned farmhouse poem. And I do this in class, and students have an origami house. The outside is their home or wherever they feel most at home. So some students chose the lake, the beach, Barnes & Noble, Starbucks. I had one kid choose his refrigerator. He's like, I love it. It's all the food I can eat. It's like very cool. So the outside is just the exterior, and then when they open it up, it's everything about that place that makes that place special to them. And then on the inside, I wish I brought some. On the inside is their poem, and their poem is objects speaking for them and narrating what this place is to them. So it's abandoned in the sense that you aren't there. The objects are there speaking. And so the abandoned farmhouse poem goes something like, he was a big man, says the size of his shoes. He was not a farmer, say the rocks in the fields. And so the students write things like, I had some real sweet ones, like, she was well loved, say the letters crumpled on her desks. And then things say, he was stressed, say the once wet pillows, like things they take you from really sweet to really sad. But the revelation of identity in the poems is very cool in that they'll share things like, I had one student who did half of his house was where he stays when he's with his mom, and half is where he's when he's with his dad. I had a girl do, her brother died in December, and so the outside was the funeral home, and then the inside was at her brother's funeral, and that was her way, I think, of coping with all the objects that were there spoke with how she felt when she was there. So my abandoned farmhouse poem is going to be a video where the objects that make me me in my home speak, and I'm going to try to film, and I haven't figured out how these objects are going to speak, but probably like, I don't know. I think I'm going to see if the audience can gauge what they're trying to say, and then at the end maybe have my poem written. So that's what I've got with
voiceover. Do you do voiceover?
I could do a voiceover.
That'd be easy.
I kind of wanted the objects. I don't know. Yeah,
And
probably
then-
voiceover
Then you have
narration.
different voices for those too, where you wouldn't have to
Yeah.
do all that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'll do that, and that's what's in the works. My scholarly is done, and I have a video to show for that. I tried a little. I wanted this to be like a how-to, so I am narrating certain parts of it, but that didn't work out so well because I have a pet parrot at home, and so he's like kind of talking in some parts. You can hear him like throwing his toys around. So I refilmed some today at, like right after school before class. So there's like a weird outfit change in the narration. So that's So we'll see. In volume, I'll experiment with.
For the past 2 weeks, my students and I have been writing poetry together in our poetry unit.
Is that loud
My
enough?
favorite type of poetry to teach is blackout poetry, mostly due to its simplicity and because of the results that my students and I are always very proud of. Using simple materials like newspaper clippings, pages torn from books, and Sharpies, my students, without writing a word of their own, are able to compose poems simply found by the words already written by others. Here are a few favorites that I pulled from this year.
So these are some that my students have done. And this says, in society we steal things, have game fights every once in a while. Everything about her was sweet and something all right. So something good stood behind those looks. It was the strength he never felt. I felt free, released. I understand. I just wonder if we have to hope and fear.
While I was happy with how all of these blackout poems turned out, I hadn't given my students any kind of prompt. So, for the purposes of this project, I wondered if my students' blackout poems would have been changed or altered.
I'm not sure.
What's the thing blinking? See what that thing blinking does.
Okay.
Yeah, just exit that.
It's recognizing the drive. You've been playing the file off of
What do I do?
Just hit play again. Should start back up.
You can talk like Beaker.
There's just a pause.
Oh, that's alright.
Hold on.
It's again.
Oh, okay.
To reach the result.
Why would anyone be so stressed when the others in the world are happy? Issues happen every day. Tony could have gotten dumped by his boyfriend or girlfriend. Don't judge. No one can ever know his story unless he tells you though. To me, Tony just needs a hug, but sadly, he's just a sticker. He was stressed out with periods and up to his smile is fine. Maybe that is the reason why he is so upset. He can never change his destiny.
Okay, so I had students, I wanted to give them a prompt for their blackout poetry. So they first wrote about their mood. Then I gave them an emoji to write about, and most of the research for this project is using emoji in poetry, the international understanding of emoji, and using it as image and word. So I gave them one emoji, and then they did a quick write over the feeling of their perceived mood of their character. And then I gave them the tools to do blackout poetry. And they had already done this before in class, so they knew the drill. I didn't have to teach that. At the end of their blackout poems, which you can't see, they told me if they wrote or did their blackout based on the mood that they were feeling or the mood that they felt like their emoji was feeling. Two of them said that they were inspired by their emoji. They got really into the character of how it looked and how it was feeling. One of them said that she wrote just based on how she was feeling. She was happy, and so she was looking for happier words. And then one of them said, oh, neither. I just liked the words that I saw, so she wasn't inspired by either. So I wasn't really looking for one answer. I was just interested in if I gave them a goal or an inspiration, how would their blackout poetry change? At the end of that, they then took their blackout poetry and they typed out their poems in emoji. And so at the end, I have their blackout compared to their emoji stories and their emoji poems. And it was cool to see how they translated words that they had found that others had written into image. So I just wanted to see how image and poetry and text played together.
But I kind of want to show you guys what my process is like for my creative. I know you guys have been watching me draw all semester. This one took me like 10 other drawings to get to this one. And then I use it as an exemplar so that I can do them with color and keep the images consistent, and you can shrink them for size or whatever. But just to give you an idea of how long it takes, you have to do one for every single character you put out. Especially if it's going to be a character they see a lot. You got to get to where your hand is steady enough that you can recreate the same image just over and over and over. And basically what we're going for is our main character is going to be a kid that doesn't feel like he fits in anywhere. This is my creative. And he's gotten into a school for creative kids, but he doesn't think he's good at anything because all the other kids like write poetry or they play music or they do stuff like that. And he really kind of feels left out until the older cat finds him. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but see how big his ears are? He's going to be able to hear so well that he can go ahead and tune the soundboard for everybody that's playing. He's going to have really big eyes and attention to detail, so he's good at setting up their stages. And he's going to learn that without him, they wouldn't have a place to showcase what they can do. And that's going to be my creative. And I'm trying to mess it up a little bit because usually the big kid is the football player, but this is my poet. Okay, like the biggest kid in the class is going to be the poet. And this is my main character that we showed you already, but this guy is the teacher that finds him and helps him out and kind of lets him know how everything works. To do the finished product, I'm going to go ahead and by hand produce a comic book, like a kid's comic. And what I'm really trying to go for is what you were talking about with the transition book. I want this to be for middle schoolers, but I want it to look like a big kid's comic. High detail, good colors, lots of shading, composition-wise. That way it's kind of something that they would think is neat to look at, so they might absorb the moral just absent-mindedly. My scholarly one, I'm still kind of having trouble zeroing in on exactly what I want to do with it, partly because this has been eating my brain. I mean, I spent 20 hours over the last few days just drawing backgrounds and scenery and everything else. Trying to get everything just right. What I've really been thinking about doing is kind of like your recipe book, but I want to do a garage website that looks like it's for a shop, and it's how to build up your writing.
Oh, that's cool.
And then like you'll have, well, the same way that we say that in teacher's pedagogy they have a toolkit that they use, I want to have the toolbox, and then when you open the toolbox, it's all the different ways you can write. That way, you click on one of them, and it bumps over to how to write something completely different. Like, if you want to write a poem, here's what you might think about. If you want to write a short narrative, here's what you might want to think about. If you want to write whatever, and then go back through and use some of our scholarly work to show how to do that properly.
Story, and I wanted to tell my oldest brother's story because I think he has a cool story, and but I couldn't decide on how to do it because there's a ton of different options like we talked about. So what I decided to do is just try to do all of them. And so instead of doing like a long story, do a short one. So it's like a paragraph. Well, it's different lengths, I guess, at different times. And then kind of the idea, I think a lot of it came up, you led the social media talk, right? About how like short stories told online is kind of like a new thing that happens, especially with Twitter and Vine, of like, we're going to tell a story, but we've constrained ourselves. And so when you tell a story on the internet, it generally needs to be really, really short. And so kind of it's the idea of like, I want to tell this story in a bunch of different ways, but they all have to be short. And so what I've done is I've done a few, and I'll show you a couple. This is, I made it just a quick Tumblr because Tumblr's easy. And so I'm questioning my decision to put text at the top. But anyway, to summarize, so I don't have to go through all of them, is my older brother is 33 now. When he was born with a degenerative brain disease called an arteriovenous malformation, or AVM, and it's not, which is like not a huge deal, except his is on his brainstem, and it's basically like a huge mass of blood vessels with like tons of aneurysms all on his brainstem.
What Nate had on 6 Feet Under.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. But it makes a bunch of things, like his balance is terrible, his motor skills are bad. Like, and it's like, so as a child he was mostly normal, just goofy with giant glasses. The funniest glasses. But since then, like, he's in a wheelchair now and he needs help eating. But he was told by the doctors when he was 6, when he was diagnosed, that he like probably wouldn't make it to 16. Definitely probably wouldn't like graduate high school, but he's 33 now, so doctors are idiots. Anyway, I did a couple. I started with one that somebody said last week, the story builder thing, which is like, that's super obnoxious. Which is like the simplest way, where you make like characters as if they're editing a Google document. And so like I did like between the doctor, my 2 parents, and Cody comes in at the end. Anyway, so this one's like the simplest one. It's really easy. Anyway, I don't feel awkward just looking at it.
That's neat though. It's really engaging because you have to read it fast too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down in the story.
That's how I did that one. Because the moral
Cody really
the moral is my brother's awesome. Next I did one with emojis because it's more fun. So it's, you can see him born and then family, which is great because we got a 3-person family there. He's really happy. There you got the doctor. Bad news. And so it kind of tells, you can see like this is him. It was cool as I found some like, this is him growing up. Or that's just him growing up. And then I made like a newspaper thing.
Oh wow.
I found like a template and like blanked out all the text. So I didn't wonder how
That's
to
really
text.
cool.
And then the one I did, this one took me like way too long. And so I have a huge list of a bunch more to make. But this one took a really long time. Like I wanted to do one with like memes and one with GIFs or GIFs if you prefer. And I have a big list. But this one is like, it's cool as you can make like a branching narrative to where it's like, it runs this HTML program to where you can read it and you can click through it. I'm going to skip through a lot of it. And then you get to this point of like, I made a split in the narrative where like, you can decide like, do we, because my parents had to make this decision of like, do we go and do a bunch of procedures to try to fix it and he might die or might get worse as like a 12-year-old, or we do mostly nothing, try to make it easy. And so they ended up with, they felt like it was too risky. And so like I went through it, and this one, like he gets a little bit, I made it up, who knows what would happen, right?
Right.
But he mostly gets better, and then he dies, I think, when he's, I don't know, after high school or something. And then if you wanted to,
So So it's like a choose your own adventure.
Yeah, like intentionally. And then this is like the true story of, he kept getting worse, but he's a cool guy. And then so I have a bunch of other ones that I wanted to do. So hopefully I'm like halfway done to finish all these. So I just thought it was cool because I respect my brother a whole lot. He's a really cool guy. So, and this was like, on the internet, I think this is how it works, is short stories. So to do something short and like just to see how many ways you can do it. And there's a bunch of like cool things, like this one's called Twine, that are really cool like that. So I have a bunch more that I want to do, but those are a few.
Did the medium change the story that you told?
Yeah.
So what way?
You'll notice
how is Twine different from the emoji or?
One thing that I noticed is like the emoji told the shortest story for me. This one like gave me more of like an emotional thing of like, I don't know, because when you're a boy in a hospital, it's like, I don't know, you feel like important but also like disregarded at the same time because you're alone.
Isolated.
You're alone, and so you feel, and so like this was my way of like trying to communicate like you're important. So it's like it's all about you. This one ended up being like really conversational, just the way, because that's, you put characters in.
Right.
But like Twine for some reason made it like super, like it was the longest one for me, and I don't know why, but yeah, some of the other ones that I wanted to do. I have a big list of like, oh yeah. One that I saw that was fun, the Atlanta Hawks did this. They told a story with a playlist, just with the song titles. So like things like that I think are really interesting, or like telling a story just through retweets. I saw somebody do like Shakespeare like that.
That's so fun to do that.
So that's work in progress, just adding more ways. And then for my scholarly, I'm doing. I'm gonna take here. I'll take that down. Going to do an infographic about games in the classroom. So we talk a lot about movies and a bunch of different things, but that's one thing that didn't come up, but I think is interesting, especially since I'll probably cover a lot of different things, because like basically the core reason is that every kid plays games of some kind, and largely every person does with phones or whatever. And so there's like a bunch of different surveys, but they run the spectrum from like, some say 70 or 80, but a lot of them it's like closer to like 90, 90. This one says 97. There's a couple other ones. And then there's also like a bunch of different things that people are doing. Minecraft is a big one. This was another one that I saw that I wanted to include that made me think that it was cool. A game called Portal, where it's like you make portals and you go through it. And there's like Valve, the maker of it, like made a site with like lesson plans.
That's really cool.
And there's only one for language arts today, but like for physics, there's a ton about different subjects that come up. An infographic to me was mainly just because like that's something, like graphic design is something that I'm bad at, but I would like to be good at. So that was most of my reasons of why I did that. Plus I think that there's a lot of like quantitative stuff with this about like how many people play, how many people use it, and I think infographics work really well with quantitative things. So I have most of my research done, but the design I'm not good at, so it's not ready.
I like propaganda, and so I decided to do some based on, some are books, some are authors, different things. This is the one that's most complete and that I'm most happy with so far. I also just called it Brain Science just from last week. But Frankenstein's one of my favorite classics, and I don't know. I actually, like I said, this is the one I'm most proud of at this point. But I just was trying to create different propaganda styles, and I found an article. This is just my creative one, but I found an article that expressed like different types of propaganda, like trying to take something negative, turn it into a positive, or the sort of everyone else is jumping off a cliff, why aren't you type of mentality. And so I try to take on those as well. I have one for Shakespeare, I have one for Lord of Lord of the Flies and one for Grasshopper Jungle so far, but they're just not quite. I wasn't quite ready to show them off yet.
How are you making them?
InDesign. I just made that.
So you pulled the gravestone from a.
I pulled the gravestone, but just the gravestone, and I guess the background image of Frankenstein. The rest is.
So you can do drawing in InDesign.
Yeah, because the lightning bolt is just the line tool.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's my basic creative. I'm trying to decide. I might put them on a blog and have like book trailers and stuff linked to them, but I also just like the image itself. So I'm still trying to toy with how I want to.
So, we talked about even just a link to the page 4 of the book too.
True.
Just that I think there'd be a nice connection. So.
Were you sending stories?
Yeah, and I just throw Frankenstein on there and like, I got posters for decorating.
Oh, yeah.
So that's my creative.
Britney Springs is
Okay. This.
Like to taste it?
Oh, that's convenient. That is actually sort of done right where I needed it. For my creative, I'm using anime paired with classic text as sort of deal with the same themes to try to show that cross cultures we all sort of deal with the same thing. So this one in particular, I would use with Great Gatsby. It's about this high school that is really, really elite, and it's really only rich kids that go there, like the insanely rich type. And there's this group of boys that form this host club, whose job it is to basically just entertain rich, bored girls. They just are super charming with it, and it's pretty much all they do. And this commoner girl gets a scholarship to the school, and she comes not dressed in the like super frilly dress. She's dressed more like a boy, and they mistake her for a boy for the first episode. And after she breaks a really expensive vase, she becomes their worker to try to pay that off. And as the show gets on, they actually end up dressing her like a boy, and she becomes one of the hosts. But the whole show is sort of based on her not understanding this rich culture, and them not understanding her either. So the little clip I want to show is they've sent her out to buy coffee, and she comes back with instant coffee, and they are just like horrified at the idea. Let me see if I can find where.
Hey, wait a minute. What is this?
Just what it looks like. It's coffee.
I've never seen this brand before. Is this the kind that's already ground?
What do you mean? It's instant coffee.
It's instant? Whoa, I've heard of this before. It's commoner's coffee. You just add hot water.
I didn't know there was such a thing. So it's true then, poor people don't even have enough free time to grind their own coffee beans.
Commoners are pretty smart.
100 grams for 300 yen?
That's a lot less than we normally pay.
I'll go back and get something else. Excuse me for not buying you guys expensive coffee.
No, I'll keep it. I'm going to give it a try. I will drink this coffee. All right, Haruhi, get over here and make some of this commoner's coffee.
I hate all these damn rich people.
Oh, Tamaki, now you're taking the joke too far. Your palate won't be able to stomach that crap. You don't have to drink it just because you bought it. I'm sorry. I was talking to myself.
So, and I was having a hard time getting text like small enough that it would work. So, I actually started doing this last year, and then I've decided like, why not use this and then add to it and work with it. So I wanted in my classroom to have paintings of authors that are my favorite authors. So I didn't do this one, my husband did this one, but there's Shakespeare, Anne Rice, Virginia Woolf, and William Faulkner. So I'm going to add 3 more. Well, gonna try to get 3 done this weekend. And so right now I have Anne Rice is the only one that is kind of not in the canon. I want to do 2 more that are not in the canon, and then 1 more maybe that is in the canon. And so my idea is I'm going to get foam board and do either speech bubbles or thought bubbles that are coming off of them, and they're going to have a discussion with each other, or if it's a thought bubble, they're like, I'm thinking Virginia Woolf might not speak, but she will just have a thought bubble that I want them to be real quotes from the literature. So that's my problem right now, is that I'm like working on finding quotes that can go together and fit together in a conversation. And the conversation is going to be something around the canon or why they should be read, okay?
So they'll all be talking to each other.
They're all talking to
7
each other, yeah,
on.
right. And then I don't know how I'd put it on the wall, but some way where you kind of are able to follow that conversation. And so, like, my thought on Virginia Woolf was from 3 Guineas, where she's asked about her position on the war, and she kind of says, no, like the active pacifism, like, no, I'm not going to even, like, my opinion doesn't matter, you don't care about me, I'm a woman, so why should I even give you my opinion on this? And then, you know, but there's a whole book on it too, so but I like how wordy that was with saying, like, I'm gonna say that I'm not gonna say anything. So I thought about having her as like a thought bubble instead of a speech bubble, and having it like I'm gonna think that all this stuff, but I'm not gonna say it. So, and then each one be some kind of quote from their work, and you know, really working on the people that are not in the canon, having something legitimate in there to say, of like kind of catching students' interest. So like, I would like to read that. So and I'm like, hopefully if it works out with the text, then I'll go ahead and leave the text up there too, and like put it in my classroom. So I thought it was like I really just wanted to have like paintings of authors in my classroom anyway, but I think the text thing added a reason for it to be in the classroom, besides just being like, hey guys, I painted my favorite authors, you know. So because I really wanted it to be something where they go, oh, who's this, you know, and then, you know, me not just say, oh, that's William Faulkner, you should really read him. But so now if there's some kind of text, maybe it'll draw them. So that's what I'm working with on that.
Who are the other?
So I'd like to have suggestions. I was thinking either Toni Morrison is a possibility. I also, yeah. Or Octavia Butler, who's not.
Well, it depends what canon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
sci-fi
sci-fi canon. Yeah,
canon.
yeah.
So.
And I don't know. Like I'm up for suggestions on this. So I like a lot of authors. If you guys have any,
I just want you to paint me an Oscar Wilde one.
I know. I've well, and my see.
How about a YA author?
I'm afraid that Virginia Woolf looks a lot. John Green.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and that might be a good one because I really.
Or all the new, like the Rowling.
Yeah. Well, see, I wanted interesting, kind of looking people too. Like I have gone through, like, okay, who's an interesting?
Yeah, not just like some basic
I don't even
looking
know what
person.
Veronica
Yeah.
looks like, but
She wrote those books when she was in college.
Yeah, she's actually Donna Tartt might be one that because
that'd be cool.
and I love Donna Tartt, and she's not part of the canon now, but she's, you know, a legitimate writer because she won Pulitzer too. So I don't know, that might be something.
You could do Ernest Cline. He wrote Ready Player One. He's kind of interesting looking.
oh, I think you need a comic artist too.
A comic.
Yeah, Alan Moore would be great to paint.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why can't you put on like social media
Here's Ernest.
Like their little picture.
Like their little blurb about them. Yeah.
Well, like the like
Which
the
makes sense.
feed, like their picture and then whatever they said.
Yeah.
Oh, so instead of having a thought bubble or a speech bubble, you have a.
It's like straight down, like the conversation going through.
So like it be like this be their
profile
pic, and then it have that's
a cute idea.
That's cute.
Like that.
And then she could be like, I'm not gonna say anything, but here
the
is
Ready
what
Player
I'm
One
gonna
guy.
say.
Or you can on Facebook now instead of saying you can just put is
I like that
feeling.
Lauren with
Yeah.
Your emotion
That's a
there.
good idea. I like that. So I could have like the is
You can change
feeling,
it.
you know.
Because you instead of like saying like I'm sad, like I ate too much, you can just, they took the fat feeling off. I'm really mad because it's my favorite one, but you can't feel
I like
fast. They took it off.
Feeling passive, and then like have this whole thing that doesn't sound like she's passive at all, because that's what Under is what I love about Virginia Woolf. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm working with on that. As far as my academic, my research for my thesis has been some different things, but it's really kind of been focused recently, and I think this is going to be what it is on achievement gaps. And so I'm really interested in this. I'm working at a school that's 87% minority, Title I school, huge emphasis on these, tests, high-stake tests. I just I'm finishing up an action research project that was about trying to figure out how to do a test prep unit, because my school is going to require that. Like, it's a big deal, but for it to still be engaging and then offer them more than just teaching to the test. So if I have to teach to the test, like, how can I be okay with that at the end of the day?
How can you not hate your life?
Yeah. So I was thinking, and actually now, like, all these ideas are so great out there. I was going to create a video, and I've already started collecting images for it from schools, magnet schools, or upper middle class schools that have a lot of resources. And if you just Google images, you come up with one thing I thought was really interesting was a lot of, if you Google like upper middle class schools or high income schools or magnet schools, you see all these pictures of families. And it's like a family out in front of the school, like, and I'm like, well, what's mom and dad doing there, and I don't really think about that. And if you Google Title I schools or low-income schools, then you don't see a single adult in there except for a teacher in front of the classroom. And it's these images of, just sitting at a desk in rows, and that's it. So I really like the differences between those images. I was going to create a video where it's kind of starts off this kind of happy, picturesque, like, life, da-da-da, and have my scholarly research that I've done throughout the past few months, statistics about schools with more money, really in big bold letters where it kind of stands out and is like, oh, and this is what we do, and these are our scores, and this is awesome, and da 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 da, and then transition over to the pictures of kids who are in the lower income schools or Title I schools with their heads in the book and doing this kind of test prep kind of thing, and then have their statistics be really small. So kind of showing the, like, let's hide that, or let's not talk about it, because I think it's an issue that's huge, and it's something that we don't like to think about. And so that's something that's been really irritating to me, is whenever you do read this, like, the disparity between the two is a huge deal. And so I wanted to somehow show that visually, because I felt like it would help me to get through my research as far as my thesis project goes, just kind of see that visually. So that's what I have now. I don't know if the video is the best medium for it, but any suggestions on that too?
You could almost do online style newspaper
gist of it.
Make like the front page, the like.
Make the headline say like continued on page 4.
Yeah.
Because then you have all the fancy kids and their fancy
Mhm.
stuff.
That's a good idea.
And that way you can make the point that the details about the other stuff doesn't really get on the front page.
Yeah. I like that idea.
There's also, if that's not a possibility, there's a Prezi that's actually a newspaper.
Yeah.
Like a above the fold one. Which would at least might help.
Okay, so for my creative, and Craig referenced it earlier, I had this grand idea, and usually when I do something creative, whether it's graphically or writing or whatever, I have a set idea in my head of what I see, and if it doesn't look exactly like that, then I get frustrated, and especially if it's tech problems. And so my creative originally, what I wanted to do, especially after seeing Anne Waldman, was I want to do some type of poetry, but have a sound type of poetry, but also visual. So what I was envisioning was a beat that I would make with my mouth, and it would show my mouth making the beat, and then it would transition over so you would see that the entire time. But then the other rest of the time, you would hear the words, but you wouldn't see the words, but you would see my reaction to what those words are, my interpretation of what those words. So, but it has the entire connotation of how opposites, when they're put together, make something even better. So it would be left and right, and then you would see, but instead of seeing like a left hand and right hand, you'd see a donkey, a Republican, and then if both those are put together, what's the best thing that comes out of it? Black, white. So instead of just seeing a color, then you would see, Ferguson, you would see police, then you would see what's a good thing that can come about. So this entire thing would be that style. So instead of seeing black and white, you're seeing black, but it's what my interpretation is. Yeah, an icon. And so, so that is what I was envisioning. So for the last week and a half, I've been really tinkering with iMovie and several others, and it's just not doing what I want it to do, technology-wise. And so, but I'm going to go back, because I had thought, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to do a graphic type of thing, because I love graphic art stuff too. So, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to try it. I'm going to do my best to envision, have everything there. So that's what I'm going to do for my creative. It could totally crash and burn, but at least we'll try. It'll push me. For my scholarly, I'm so used to teaching adults that I wanted to do something totally opposite of what I'm used to doing, and so I wanted to do a picture book, a children's book, but it's all about Benny the Beaver. And Benny the Beaver basically finds a book, but doesn't know what any of these squiggly marks or pictures, what they mean, and so he takes it to his friends, but his friends can't communicate because they're a totally different race. They're going to be dogs. And so now they have to communicate without words, because beavers and dogs can't really talk. So they're now going to have to communicate with pictures. And so I'm going to incorporate a lot of the sources that we learned throughout the semester about how best, by the end, Benny can read and understand. I have the first the cover and the first 3 panes. And so I'll generally there's definitely much more to come. I'm about a 4th or a 5th of the way through it, because I want it to be about 18 panes, maybe a little bit longer. So,
wow.
This is.
Did you hand draw these?
No, this is on Illustrator. My backgrounds is PR and graphic arts before I was English teacher, so I miss doing all this stuff. So, so this is Benny's Reading Adventure. I think I might come up with a better title, but hold in place. So, Benny was a beaver who loved going on adventures. On one particular adventure, he found a funny-looking object, and so, as you can see,
it's Shakespeare's collected play.
There we go. So he has that look of what? And let me blow that up. There we go. Benny held the tiny object, or held the object in his tiny hands. He saw strange markings he did not understand. And so it shows him opening the book and having it in his little hands there. And so that's basically how it's going to progress. I want to have bright colors. I want to have this little dude Benny going through and asking people, but of course no one else is going to be beavers, so no one speaks the same language, and it's going to hopefully translate to, you know, ESL or, you know, other students that are trying to learn but do not speak the language, but through the multimodal, they'll be able to understand and communicate with each other. And as I get through to those different things, there's going to be at the bottom little asterisks, and it's going to be where it's from and the quote from that supporting. So looking at, you know, other people like Bakhtin and some educational theorists that talk about the discourses of plurality, to where multiple people, whenever they get together, students especially when they read, they can make up new inventions and ideas from working together that can still support the original, but it makes more sense to them, you know, that type of thing. So
start with scholarly because I don't have it done yet, but I am doing something. I'm going to try and do some video somehow about how visuals can help struggling readers understand text. So I was thinking I wanted to start it out like with just gibberish written everywhere, just as kind of a way to show this is kind of how they feel, you know. I did a questionnaire. I'm slowly doing a questionnaire because all my kids that are struggling readers are small group, so I can't ever get them all at the same time to get the questionnaire done. But I've gotten a few of them done. So I just did a little questionnaire of, like, you know, do you like visuals? Do you like comic books and graphic novels better than regular novels? Just basic questions like that. And I'm going to put some of their answers into the video. And I haven't decided if I'm going to speak them or if I'm just going to do it right over it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not very far with that one yet. I'm still working on that one. Creative. I am doing Pandora's Box. Okay, so this was the only one that I could find with a box, but I want to try and change out the little origami birds. It's like I'm trying to find like some demons or something, but I can't. I don't know how to do it without the backgrounds on the pictures, because these are just pictures, so I can take them off.
Does anybody know how you could drop in?
I could just draw you a picture that you can upload. That's usually the best way to do that.
But I still, how would you get the
you
background?
have to get it transparent around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I don't know.
Yeah, anyone who's got some like design experience can do it.
Well, I don't have any design experience, so, but yeah, that's my plan. If it doesn't work out, I'll probably just stick with the birds.
Yeah.
I did,
Can
so.
Can you do any coloring of those things, or that page is untouchable?
No, you can change it. So like I did I got it to where it would put the smoky background in it. Just because I wanted it to be kind of dark.
Because even if you couldn't find other creatures, just different colors
Well,
and things.
I couldn't change I can't change the colors of the origami birds. I wanted to. That's what I was trying to do, but they're white no matter what color I change it to. So.
And on that note, you can limit your Google Images search to transparent background images.
Yeah,
if you don't mind stealing.
See, this is why I brought this up. Transparent.
Oh, there's a lot of.
What does that mean? Oh, so that's what you have there?
Yeah, but you can filter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Transparent background.
Oh, and God, there's plenty of Pandora-like creatures.
Yeah,
Okay,
you just click
good.
the search tools and then it's under color. Which I think is funny because it's like color transparent, so it's like, oh, so I just like an invisible picture. That's terrific. Thank you.
This is so useful.
Because that's what I want.
So it shows that.
That's the look that I want.
Yeah.
But
And you wouldn't need many of those.
right. I would just need a few different ones and just put them around. So. That'll- Okay, so the song that's playing in the background is a little strange, but it was the only song that I could find that actually described Pandora's Box. and I liked it a little bit.
Moby has a website with previews.
I can't remember the girl's name. I have it on my computer at home, but yeah, she was some random artist. But so I don't know if that's. So, I basically am just telling the story of Pandora's Box in this, and then using visuals that I found online. So, starts out, has your curiosity ever gotten you into trouble? One woman, the first woman, let her curiosity get the better of her, and it caused the world a whole heap of trouble. Her name is Pandora. It all began with two brothers, Prometheus and Epimetheus. Prometheus angered Zeus by stealing fire and giving it to the humans. That's what the two pictures down there are. Okay, so their punishments. So Zeus punished Prometheus by chaining him to a rock in the Caucasus Mountains, I think is how you say it, where an eagle came each day and ate his liver. Then each night his liver regenerated because he is immortal. I've got this lovely image. That looks like such a wonderful thing to happen. Okay, so Epimetheus' punishment was a little different from his brothers. Zeus sent him the first woman, which doesn't seem like that bad of a deal, right? Okay, the problem. So Zeus had her created for destruction. He made sure all the gods and goddesses gave her a gift. Aphrodite gave her beauty and desire. Hermes gave her a deceitful mind. Hera gave her curiosity. She was given the name Pandora, meaning all gifted. So this is a base with them giving the gifts. The box. So as a wedding present, Zeus gave Pandora a mysterious box. Well, it was actually a pithos. Is that how you say that? I think. But Pandora's box sounds much better than Pandora's pithos. So then in the red, I put he made her promise never to open it. So, bestow a woman with extreme curiosity and then give her a box or jar as a gift and tell her she can't open it. I wonder what happens.
Even without curiosity.
Okay, so obviously she opens it. So when she opens it, all of the evils of man are released into the world. And that's what I found this picture. I really like it because I don't know if you can see it. That is not what I told you to do.
I'm suddenly very dizzy and afraid of heights.
Yeah, exactly. But if you see, I don't know if we can read it up here. So it's got like little words here: disturbed and shocked, and newspaper articles of bad things that have happened in the world. So, like I think there's something about the Holocaust in there. The Middle East is down at the bottom, and then down at the very, very bottom, there's hope still left in the box. So all of the evils of the world were released from the box to roam free, but Pandora slammed the lid shut before Hope could escape. Because of this, Hope is still controlled by men and spurs them to action and consoles them in times of misfortune. And then the last slide I haven't finished yet, but Craig gave me the idea to do something creative, like something I would have my students do with it. And what I did with my last mythology lesson is I had them rewrite the myth from a different perspective. So I was thinking that I was going to do something like that. So I was just going to rewrite the story from Pandora's perspective or from one of the brothers' perspectives, something like that.
I'd like to hear it from the boxes.
At least Hope's perspective. Or Hope's perspective. I like that. I'm going to write this down.
Considered like one of the evils of man.
And I wanted to add some video somehow, but I couldn't really find anything that I liked, so I was trying to think of how I could make something.
Any suggestions?
Trust yourself, you're creative, that's cool.